our general disagreement is over voting,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, I support voting. I just, I think that there's a mindset that's going into the tactics of your approach to voting
Okay.
that is fundamentally wrong.
Okay. Sick. So I'll go over quickly my position because you're sort of. I don't want to use too many like debate terms because I don't want this to be like hostile necessarily.
So
But I will say that
I
you're attacking my position if that's fair to say. So I'll go over my position if that's okay.
would say flatly that we can use debate terms. I'm gonna try and not make this a debate, but we can use debate terms. I understand them.
Sure. Well, yeah, you definitely disagree with my position, and I do want to stand by my position. So my position is necessarily like, I fully believe in a democracy. I think that we need to vote. I think that we need to get engaged in our community. I think that there are a lot of benefits that can come across when we vote in meaningful and impactful ways, and I think that we can help and impact other people. And I think that that's it. It's the easiest way to make the world a better place. It's not the most effective, but it's the easiest way in order to get change about. And I would never disagree with like, getting involved in your community, working with nonprofit organizations. That's always something I'm going to be pushing for. But I also think that voting is like, it's almost like getting the vaccine. It's like the easiest way to just help people's lives.
Yeah, and like it's the easiest because it's the least effective from my
Sure,
point.
sure. I would even probably be agreeing with that, but like,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing it.
No, so that's where I'm at. I'm not against voting. I'm just so there's this mindset that comes along with, hey, we should vote. Hey, we should compromise. Hey, the Democrats are closest to our positions. We need to ensure that the fascists are out of office
Yeah,
so that we can work with the Democrats and drag them to the left.
yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of steps in there that the Democratic Party is currently knowingly taking advantage of.
Could you be a
And
little bit more substantial with this? Like, I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to.
so, okay, let's take Biden for instance.
Okay.
Biden versus Trump. I support I support I supported voting for Biden in that instance.
Yeah.
And I'm lukewarm on it at this point because Biden has kind of limboed under the expectation that I had for him.
Okay.
But it's probably better than Trump would have been. But
Sure.
whatever.
I would say he's actually outperformed because like I was not a fan of Biden, especially in the primaries. I supported Bernie and Warren and voted for Bernie in the primaries and contributed to their campaigns. But Biden has far outperformed my expectations of him. He was one of my least favorite campaigns, but I think that in terms of like foreign policy, in forms of economic policy, I'm very happy with my vote with Biden, and I think there are definite ways that we can push him to the left, but I comparing him to Trump, it's not even close.
Well, so we'll backpedal. We'll get back around to this. Because the comparison is the whole issue. The constant choice between the lukewarm compromise and the fascists.
Sure, I hear that, but what I would say is that Bernie wasn't popular.
No,
Biden was more popular than Bernie, and that's just what happens in a democracy.
I know. And Biden's more popular among the demographics that vote more, and
Yeah,
Biden is more popular amongst the more wealthy who donate more.
it's true.
But that's like the needle there, is that every measure you take that Biden is more popular than someone like Bernie is a measure on him being more popular with the wealthy. Bernie was less popular in the Democratic Party, but he was more popular in independents, and he was more popular among Republicans. Bernie takes a different cut on the voting than Biden did. And now this is just the whole shebang, the absolute trash fire that was the 2020 elections is impossible to overlook. There was not a single thing in it that was good for Bernie or okay.
Wait, hold on. There wasn't a thing about the 2020 election that was good for Bernie? Bernie Sanders supported Biden. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. I know this is why I didn't necessarily want this kind of conversation, because I'm bad at like concisely stating my ideas.
Oh, hey, sorry. I'm just gonna really pause real quick. Sorry. You can always take back anything that you're saying, and we'll discard it. And that's totally okay. I don't want you to feel compelled to. Oh, sorry.
It's a crystallization issue, not a regret issue. It's forming the idea, and honestly, like I said, I've researched into this, but I have not researched into the entire breadth of this issue. Like I was talking earlier today on the comparison between Biden and Trump, and one of my favorite things about Biden is the child tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it, it sums about $3,000 per child per household. That's just a stimulus package for fewer people.
But it's a stimulus package targeted towards poor people who need it the most.
It's a stimulus package targeted towards people with children.
Correct. Who need it the most.
The stimulus package that gave money to families all the way from the bottom to people with the top limit was 120 for a single payer and 150 for two family incomes.
Sure. I think this gets into sort of my issue with criticizing Biden for his policies, because some people don't like Biden for not forgiving student loan debt and instead targeting children under families. And I would so much. I'm a student. I don't have kids, but I'm so grateful that Biden targeted those demographics who are way more in need than I was.
Yeah, but there is an entire swath of Americans who have been completely unable to afford children for the last 10 years.
I agree.
And they were just ignored by that.
They weren't they weren't ignored. You have to target this in multiple directions, and you have to do it one by one.
The thing is, if you target from multiple directions, you means test, you laser precision this, you do your best to save the government money, you just let people fall through the cracks for months and years at a time.
But if you hit them all at the same time, inflation is going to go through the roof, and that's going to damage working people more than anyone.
It's not. Inflation always damages the rich.
Wait, hold on. Hold on.
Inflation damages the rich because it hurts the number in their bank account more than it hurts people's income.
No, I'm gonna flatly disagree with this for a lot of reasons. One, there's a term in economics called marginal value in terms of money, and the idea of a percentage of the rich, it's going to be the same amount of a rich and a working class person, and the percentage is going to be the same, but it's going to damage the working class more because 2% of working class means a lot more than a rich person's 2%, even though it's more money.
I agree there. No, the trick of it is that inflation fucking catches the lowest in the top in a royal, because the lowest, their wages don't keep up with inflation. But that's not the fault of inflation, that's the fault of the wages.
So
it deflates their held value. In the middle, though, it deflates loans, essentially makes anybody whose wage tracks with inflation in any way, shape, or form suddenly has an easier time paying off debts. That's a huge portion of America.
Go ahead,
Now,
sorry.
here's the thing. Inflation matters less to the poorest when they are directly getting money. When they're
Sure.
getting money that pays for their goods,
Okay.
even if the goods inflate 2%, that 2% is eaten up by the money you're directly
So
giving them.
here's
The bucks over the year, a 2% increase in my groceries is maybe like $150 over the course of the year. Like, I'm not spending, maybe, no, it's more than that. If I'm going to do the math honestly and earnestly, at most $300 is a 2% increase.
I think this gets into another issue that I kind of have, and we can divert just a tiny bit if that's okay. And that, I think, is like getting a negative tax credit, which is, I think, something that you're sort of advocating here for, which is like either a UBI or a yet negative tax credit, giving money to the poor in some way, right?
What I'm advocating for, but go on.
Okay, sure. Well, we'll just sort of like that would probably be a policy that you would advocate for, as am I, right?
UBI and negative tax credits. I like negative tax credits better than UBIs,
I do too.
but that's mostly because I don't trust the government. An ideal UBI works the best, but we're just not going to get an ideal one.
We'll get into that just a bit. But I guess my point is that Biden is not a dictator. He's a democratic president. And these policies that you're advocating for, you're asking for Biden to do all of these things that are not unilaterally agreed upon, including like his infrastructure bill, which was $2 billion, which was shut down in the Senate because West Virginia is overwhelmingly conservative.
I'm not asking Biden to do this. I'm simply stating that this divide and conquer between the Senate, the House, and the presidency is part of their strategy of gutting their own bills.
I don't even know what that. I don't see here. This sort of conspiracy. It feels just a little bit. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm shortcutting a lot of. I'm shortcutting a lot of things that are kind of stochastic and happen not all in the open. But okay, so let's talk about this.
Do you see how that sounds a little conspiratorial right there? Because I think I know what you're referring to, and we can get into it. But essentially, Joe Manchin being able to shut down the Build Back Better bill, correct?
Joe Manchin being able to shut down the Build Back Better bill.
That's one aspect of a larger picture that you'd like to. Correct.
Is it, well,
is that, I don't know. I'm trying to go ahead. Sorry. You can argue for yourself. Sorry.
I'm trying to gather myself because this is shortcutting a lot of things. The thing is that we are hinging our democracy on so many different undemocratic institutions that mathematically we're not always going to have the perfect momentum to win, and they're always capable of collaborating with each other in order to get what they want.
Sure, if you would like to give a specific example, that's totally fine. But for right now, I'll use the Build Back Better bill just because that is the $2 trillion infrastructure bill. We can look at Joe Manchin. I think that that's a perfect representation of democracy because when you look at West Virginia, they're overwhelmingly conservative and most of them approve of what is happening with Joe Manchin. Most of them are saying, I prefer Joe Manchin to Joe Biden because he is willing to compromise with the other side, which is something we want with Democrats. So, like, this is Yeah, sorry.
This is fundamental undemocratic part. Because Joe Manchin is making decisions for the entire country based on what West Virginia wants, and the entire country and the entire economy is hinged on a whole hell lot of hell of a lot more than just West Virginia.
No, it's not. It's hinging on 50% of the country being into this, because 50% of the Senate is Democrats and 50% of the Senate is Republicans, and one Democrat is a conservative Republican, meaning that 51% of the Senate is interested in disassembling the Build Back Better, the infrastructure bill.
But that's not 50% of the population.
It's 51%. It's higher.
Not. What's the demographic breakdown of the states? We know the ways that the Senate is undemocratic.
Sure. But, like, if you would like to disband the Senate, I'm fine with it. If you want to disband the Electoral College, I'm fine with that. But my biggest... Sorry?
I agree.
But those aren't popular ideas. The idea that the Senate is interested is also a democratic ability, because no one wants to talk about it because no one's interested in that.
The poll... Okay, let me look up the polls on the interest in not abolishing the Senate, but, say, abolishing the Electoral College.
Sure.
This is... I really doubt that that's an unpopular idea. Okay, abolishing... Oh, the reason that...
It's about 61% of Americans. 39% are interested in keeping the Electoral College. It's almost overwhelmingly a Republican belief.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too... Republican versus Democrat is useful, and it holds some value, but, like...
Well, with the Electoral College, it absolutely is. That's a pretty divisive issue on party lines, generally speaking.
That's the whole thing, is, like, we are at 61% say the Electoral College is holding us back.
Sure.
That's 61% of Americans say that this undemocratic institution is holding us back.
Sure.
The undemocratic nature of that institution is what prevents us from getting rid of it. It protects itself. Because all it needs... I bet the Electoral College could survive with 25% approval. I bet it could... It probably couldn't survive with 10% approval,
yeah.
But when are we going to convince 90% of people to agree on everything?
Well, what else? Like, here's my question: is I think that the country is there's an issue with inertia. The idea that it's harder to change things than to keep things going. And once they change things, then they're still going to stay on that trajectory. And you need a significant portion of the population in order to shift to something that's important. And the thing is we do not have those numbers, especially on probably the most popular of our ideas, which is banning the Electoral College. If we look at things like banning the Senate, numbers plummet. Like, no one is in favor of doing that.
Yeah. I mean, nobody but me.
Sorry?
But nobody but me. So.
Well, I'm interested in that as well, and I was actually just talking to someone yesterday who was bringing that up. I think it's a fair... I would probably guess about 5-10%. I could look up numbers if you'd like, but we're nowhere near to get that done.
Get through this, because essentially what's happened here is we have layers and layers of different levels of undemocratic institutions that have enacted undemocratic ways under the guise of democracy, because they win a red versus blue binary every 2 to 4 years. Every 2 to 6 years, I guess.
Sure.
So, what do we need to, say, fix the Senate right now?
Well,
we need Democrat supermajority, right? So that we don't have to worry about abolishing the filibuster, so that we don't have to worry about listening to the minority opinion. That would require literally winning 16 positions out of the 34 up for grabs without losing any. So there are 14 Democratic positions up and 20 Republican ones up. That means winning 16 out of those 20 without losing any of the 14.
I mean, welcome to a democracy. I don't know what else to say. Like, that's just what you need to do, is garner public support.
It's not a democracy, dude.
How is that? I don't understand how voting for a representative is not a democracy.
But voting for representatives is a democracy. Our method of voting for and having representatives is fundamentally and intentionally undemocratic, and we cannot get rid of it without an overwhelming supermajority, which is mathematically impossible.
It's not mathematically impossible, because here's the thing. Here's my frustration with this sort of narrative is it fails. Sorry?
Wait.
Okay.
Especially if we keep talking about red versus blue, if we keep
Sure.
talking about to convince Republicans of making this a good idea, because it's not just red versus blue.
Sure.
Red versus blue is a convenient bundle,
Well,
so that single issue voters can be wrapped up into different parties.
I mean,
All it is.
I wouldn't say it's as much of like a structure, like sort of like a arbitrary structure, as much as I think that you're making it, considering that so many of these issues are bordering on the difference between blue and red. You look at climate change, like it's such.
I know.
Okay.
I know they do, because that's the game of it. That's what the gamesmanship is. We have a system with red versus blue where single issue voters get wrapped up into the party that matches their single issue.
Sure.
And they get counted as popularity for all of the other issues of that party.
Okay, so I guess my question is like, what are you proposing to fix these situations? Because if you're saying that a democracy is not perfect, I totally understand. If you're saying we need to go back into like ranked choice voting, or not going back, but moving forward into that sort of system, abolishing the Electoral College, making gerrymandering being arbitrated by a third party, the how much is it? Sorry?
Dude, I support all of these things completely. Yeah. The difference is that I see no reasonable method with our current approach of red versus blue to get from here to there.
I disagree, because here's the thing. I could be saying that the exact same thing in the 1800s, where I would say the only person who is ever going to be able to vote are straight, white, or not straight, sorry, gay people could vote, white males who owned property. They were in prison, sure, but like, you know, I don't know why I put straight in there.
I mean, it was generally true, even though they were just...
Sure. I feel like we're equivocating. But, like, yeah, a poor white male, or sorry, a rich white male are the only people who could vote. And I feel like if I had this mentality where this is the way that the system is only going to be, the 14th Amendment wouldn't happen, the women's rights, the suffrage movement wouldn't happen, the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act of 1965 wouldn't have happened. And I feel like we have the ability to make our system more democratic, but like, how else do we do it other than advocating for advocating for change and then voting in representatives who agree with that?
The 14th Amendment didn't come until after a war about it.
I know. So like let's get agitated. Let's say this is something that we care about, and I feel like I don't see this agitation on the people who are just like, well, voting's not going to change anything. It's like, let's get agitated and change things.
Choices. It's because of the choices. But wait, so voting rights didn't happen until after a war. Women's right to vote didn't happen until rich women got on board. The civil rights activists, the civil rights movements didn't come until after the riots.
I fully agree. Well, not after Martin Luther King Jr. No, it was the Selma riots that it wasn't MLK deaths that got the Civil Rights Act of 1965. That was beforehand. But we're equivocating. That's
69, right? Wasn't there a second one in 69?
I believe so. I can double check what exactly the policy was, but I'm specifically talking about the one that prevented poll taxes and literacy tests That was one that MLK drafted. Well, not MLK drafted, but like LBG signed in with the with MLK essentially going to the White House and saying these are the things that we need, and then marching to Selma when he didn't get what he wanted, and then LBJ was like, I feel pressured by the people below me because people care about this so much. And the thing is people don't care about this.
I have a hunch about LBJ that he wasn't pressured by the people below him. I think LBJ genuinely cared from the beginning, but that's a side note.
Sure. But like, it wasn't politically convenient, and at the end of the day, I don't really care about like president's motivations. Like, if LBJ cared or didn't, like he signed the bill into law, and that's all I care about. Black people can vote now, which is sick.
Yeah, LBJ is kind of crazy. He blackmailed politicians into doing it. He political motivation, nothing. He blackmailed people. But
I don't know anything about that.
It's a whole story.
I could look into it, but that's
like a black book on details of like senators' sex lives, and then went to them and asked for them to vote his way. The man was like a villain.
okay.
Okay, so you're right. There's not enough agitation.
Yeah.
But when you agitate people up, you've got to agitate them for something new. And there is nothing new about the Democratic Party.
Well, a couple things. Like, when it comes to agitation, like, you can say a child tax credit is something new. Like, COVID relief is something that's new. Infrastructure is something that's new. And the thing is that people aren't generally that interested in it, and that's something that I would like to do. I would like to see more people getting frustrated, but I think that a lot of people on the left seems to just sort of like look at the democratic process and just say, well, it's rigged to begin with, instead of people aren't motivated to change it. And maybe the issue is our neighbors or the people that we're not talking to, all of the conservatives that sit on the bylines and don't do anything, and also people to my left who don't do anything either. And I want to encourage everyone to engage in the democratic system and vote and agitate and get in protests and get, like, things can change.
Oh, I agree. I agree. But there is something so fundamentally wrong about approaching that with the Senate and the presidency, and less so the House, but no. I'm talking about agitate for local elections. If you want people talking to their neighbors, I think that's the most important thing.
I fully agree.
You have to be getting into local elections.
I fully agree. I think that the biggest frustration is that, like, some people say that, like, Biden didn't do anything to, like, fix their police state, and it's like the police state isn't even run on a federal level. That's a local election issue. That's run by your mayor. Like, that's where all of the funds are accrued and divvied up. And I feel like people don't engage with the local because it's not sexy. It's not intriguing. It's not. You can't talk with someone over the internet over what's going on with your town. You have to go to the next door, and that's hard for some people.
It's the internet. The problem is the problem is we have interest groups and not physical groups, and so, but that's like advocating for on the Senate level and agitating with about the Senate level is going to lead to frustration. It's going to lead to voter apathy. It's not going to lead to change, because all they're going to see is the gutted bills, the stimulus that didn't reach them.
But if we agitate, if we get people on board, then there won't be gutted bills. The gutted bills, the fact that they're gutted is the people of West Virginia getting their voice heard.
It's not the people. West Virginia in there.
How is that okay? No, but like, here's my biggest frustration is like, let's look at West Virginia politics. Let's look at Joe Manchin for just half a second, because he's the most conservative Democrat, and he's the only Democrat that would ever get elected in the state of West Virginia. It is overwhelmingly Republican, and so many, like, the polls when it comes to Joe Manchin are beloved in that state of the very conservative Democrats or very liberal Republicans. He meets that demographic so well, and I feel like we refuse to engage with the fact that maybe the issue is the fact that we're not talking to the people of West Virginia or anyone who represents those interests. And I think that if we engage with the people who are moderate in this country, we'll see a lot of change, instead of just pointing our gun and saying if we shoot Jeff Bezos then our problems will get fixed, as if that would solve anything.
So no, that's not what it is.
Okay.
So, okay. There are two ways to unite both sides of the political aisle. You can appeal to those who have and those who do not. And I have not looked at the explicit polling breakdown of West Virginia. I don't particularly care about their historical voting record. But how much of Joe Manchin is supporting not the rights of his people, the wants of his people, but supporting the wants of the coal owners in his state?
But those aren't, like, here's the thing, is if you want to say that the people of West Virginia are voting against their interests, I would agree with you. I would say that they are essentially voting for gutted infrastructure for their own city, and that the rise to inflation is absolutely worth the benefits that they would see in their state. Of course, but that is not what those people want. They want lower taxes, and they're fine with their lives, and that is what a democracy is. And if you're saying Joe Manchin should look at the 2% of his state who are coal miners who are saying, hey, we want this infrastructure bill passed, or whatever you're saying, as opposed to the 98% of the state who's saying, no, we don't want higher taxes. This is going to increase deficit spending like none other, and that's something that we care about. Like, of course, Joe Manchin should look to the 98% of people. Those are the people he represents.
No, I'm not talking about the coal miners. I'm saying.
Sorry, didn't you say coal miners? What were you referring to?
The owners? I said owners.
Oh, I misheard you. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's an easy mistake. I'm not always clear. Okay. What percentage of West Virginia will never vote because they feel like their voice won't be heard?
I don't know. I would probably say it's a significant amount, though. Like, probably like 5% of people. Do you think that's fair to say?
I'd say it's more than that. I'd say, but let me. I guess I got to look at the total voting percentage in West Virginia.
I mean, because we also have to look at the amount of Democrats who do vote in that. Are you saying people who don't vote because they believe their vote is worthless, or people who do vote knowing that their vote is worthless? Because those numbers would be different.
I can't get the Senate.
I can look it up for you if you'd like.
The last Senate voting. The last Senate vote for Joe Manchin in West Virginia.
Sure.
What's the
yeah, give me 1 second. Let's look at his election in...
I think it was 2018.
Yeah, it must have been. Here we go. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, it's okay.
Here we go. Okay, so Joe Manchin got 290,000 votes, and Patrick Morrissey got 271,000 votes. So I would actually say in West Virginia, the percentage is way lower than I might have thought, actually, because people who are Democrats and people who are Republicans are very likely to get their voice heard. Because in this, like Joe Manchin represent, like, you know, the difference between Joe Manchin and Patrick Morrissey, who's the Republican who is trying to go to, or Joe Manchin's, what the fuck is it called? My brain is turned off. But the other people the other person running for Senate was a Republican, and it was the difference between about 3% of the state. So like feeling like your voice matters is honestly a pretty good. It definitely happens in West Virginia.
Okay. By the way, I would not like to see this on TikTok, if that's okay.
Okay.
That's a. I know the way that this. I know that my speech pattern is not going to get a good shake.
Okay.
And it's not even saying that you'd be like biased or intentionally trying to not give me a good shake. It's just that I take 15 minutes to say what you
Sure.
say in 15 minutes.
Hey,
Okay.
hey, sorry. I just want to real quick. That's totally fair. I'll totally respect that. Just let me know how you feel about everything, and if there's any way that I can sort of make your. I want to make sure that your arguments. I obviously disagree with you on this sense, but I would also like to make sure that you get the best. Yeah, you get the best shake.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm just saying that I probably won't get a good shake on TikTok. I don't know if I'm even going to get a good shake on YouTube, but at least it'll be unabridged.
I mean, I've got like 3 YouTube subscribers right now, so we'll see how they feel about it.
I mean, I'm probably not going to go viral, so I'm not too worried.
Okay.
I like you, and it's very hard to argue over polling statistics and so on and so forth when what I'm fundamentally arguing for is not voting at the Senate level or whatever. I'm simply stating that the Senate is not a representation of what we need or what we want, and it may not even be a representation of what each individual senator represents.
I mean, I hear kind of what you're saying, but I guess I can't think of a better system other than whoever the majority in a specific area votes for a representative that sort of matches what the majority of those people want, and then going to like a big building to vote on federal policies. And maybe those federal policies aren't super universal, and that's why people start advocating for local and state rights, like that they get to take charge in a more
like I'm a communist, but I agree. I just don't see a way from our point A to the point B of a democracy that actually functions.
Well, how would your point B look like? What would your point B look like other than
so the whole issue is that there are a million common sense reforms on democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Getting rid of the Electoral College, using the House as the primary method,
Mm-hmm.
Implementing some way for the people to direct democracy on things. And even if we direct democracy and then senator or representatives work out the implementation with compromise and stuff, if, say, hey, the populace says mandate for UBI, then a house that works out the details of how that needs to actually work. But that's kind of pie in the sky. Right now, the most common sense thing that I can think to do is get people who are left leaning into local politics, get us interfacing across lines without trying to red versus blue this,
Sure.
and literally any kind of organization to put a new foothold for a party that's not libertarians.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. Like some sort of Green Party or something. But I think that another thing that we sort of need to recognize. Sorry?
you know, the Green Party is so spotty. I want to love it, but I
Sure,
can't.
sure. Like some sort of socialist party. Is that sort of what you're looking for?
I a socialist party, and like I think
I
that's the
guess,
better forward, both short term and long term, both reformist and radical, is to get a foothold in that's not red versus blue, and
sure.
I think
And it,
we do
I,
that as small.
I think I can totally get on board with this, but I think that what we also need to recognize is that a socialist party would flop in America, and it would not even close. And also there's an also issue. Sorry, go ahead.
We haven't given literally any chance to actual footwork for socialism
Sure,
with
kind of, but like you.
since the fucking 70s and when like
Sorry.
we haven't since the 70s when the government was killing them,
Hold on, the 70s.
I'm talking about the Black Panther Party.
Oh, sure, sure, sure. I don't think they were killed because they were communists, though.
um
Okay.
like not to be conspiratorial, but yeah, they were.
Okay. Well, I'll move past that point. I think that it's the I mean,
If
I'm not here talking shit about the Black Panther Party. I was just talking about them yesterday about how much I appreciate their movement, but I think their black nationalism was more sort of the focus of people's frustrations. But that's totally besides the point. That's besides the point. My point is that even if you were to create a socialist party, it would be immediately overtaken by India Walton, AOC, Bernie Sanders, those types of quote unquote socialists that you would not consider socialists at all, but they consider themselves socialist. It would be a more progressive party. So, like, I think that even. Sorry?
so this is once again why I'm saying like local, not even house. I'm talking about city and state legislator. But moreover than that, yeah, I understand that it would be co-opted. And I don't have any delusions about that. That's part of why it's part of why once you get as far left as I am, we're very like unenthralled with electoral
But
politics.
like, how can you be unenthralled when you have so much progression being made in the Democratic Party? I mean, like, I hate to be that cringy guy, but like, the squad is making a huge amount of progress in terms of like a lot of progressive and very liberal policies. And I think that as a communist, you should be excited about the amount of material conditions that are changing for the working class people.
I mean, I am working class.
No, for sure, I am too. Yeah.
I haven't seen many changes.
What, you haven't seen a lot of changes, like what when it like, with,
Now,
sure, when
I'm
it.
not trying to me personally this, and I'm not trying to like anecdote my way out of this. But once you start networking with the people on the ground, not much has changed. Things have gotten tougher.
When you look at unemployment rates, they've skyrocketed since Biden has been in power. And it's sorry?
They have.
Yeah. And I like that's such a huge substantial change for unemployment people and a huge relief off of your back where you recognize that if you lose your job, you are not thrown into the pit of just like, oh, sucks for you, better find one while you're trying to just pay rent so you don't get on the streets and you'll just take any job that you have. I think that's a huge relief off my back. Like I don't think I'm gonna be fired, but like if I were, I know that I can take a month off or so. It's gonna be tight, it's gonna be hard, it's gonna be difficult, but I have a substantial amount of time where I can find a better job that's livable for me. And I think to dismiss that is is privileged, honestly. I think that like the amount of unemployed people would have hugely benefited from Biden, and anyone who has a child, especially the amount of damage that families have incurred due to COVID restrictions on elementary schools, like the extra income, the extra little bit of money that we've been able to give them is hugely beneficial to them. And I know I have a niece, and I have two nieces. Well, I have three nieces, but my brother has two daughters. And he was just talking about how much, like, he honestly felt, like, so frustrated with the fact that his daughter wasn't able to go to a physical school. And he said, like, he received checks from the government, and he goes, whoa, that is honestly a little too much. Now I feel a little uncomfortable with how much money that I'm taking in. Like, this is... It was hugely beneficial for so many people, and like the material like conditions are just so much better under fucking Trump, who like just increased taxes for the rich and the military budget by like...
I don't want to go back to Trump either.
Sure.
I don't want to go back to Trump either, and I can respect the child tax credit.
Yeah.
And I like it a lot. It's a good policy, and it's ending this.
Sorry, what?
Last I checked, the child tax credit was only for 2021.
Sure. And I think that what's really great about a democracy is once policies start kicking in and they become really popular, then they stay around. And that's what you can see with Medicare. That's what you can see with Medicaid, Social Security, the post office. These are institutions that have existed for well, the post office is a bad example, 40, 50 years. Post office has obviously been around longer than that. But like, or longer. I don't actually know when no, that was FDR. So that was what the...
It's about for democracy, like I'm against democracy. I'm not against democracy. I'm not against the government. I'm not an anarchist, even though I wish I were. I am pro-democracy. I just don't believe in our current democracy's ability to fix itself.
I don't see why not when it's fixed so many issues over the years. Like now everyone can vote. And that was a huge problem in the 1700s. That was such a big problem. The fact that only rich white men could vote. That was such a huge like thorn, like a structural change, structural need to change. And we changed that bit by bit by having people who advocated, got on the streets, and then changed it through policy levels. And I don't see why the same couldn't be this. I don't know why the same couldn't be said for so many changes with our democracy, especially because every fucking country around the world has been able to solve this too.
So, okay. No, they haven't.
The Electoral College is a uniquely American issue.
There are many uniquely American issues.
Yes.
The first and foremost thing that you need to know is that American business and their shady dealings in the third world is the bedrock for Europe. It is.
Okay.
And their shady dealings in the third world are also feeding into this.
So I'm not saying that imperialism is not an issue, but I do not see at all how the imperialism of the global south has anything to do with like democratic structures in Europe or America.
No. When America impoverishes those countries undemocratically and passes those profits onto the rest of the world, that's how.
Sure. What I will say to this is I think that so I am not... I want to be so clear here. I'm so anti-imperialist, okay? But imperialism is popular. Imperialism is popular. We look at the 2001 Iraq War, fucking George Bush was the most popular president. His approval ratings were sky high, and the Dixie Chicks got fucking canceled because they said George Bush isn't my president. I don't like he's going to an Iraq war. People were like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the sort of like fanaticism that happened after 9/11, but like people were like, we need to avenge our fallen brothers and sisters and go attack this country. And the people were like, oh, this isn't the fucking country that attacked us. And they're like, shut up, commie, we're going to go ahead and attack. And I'm not saying there's not an issue with that. I am saying it is popular, and the United States is a tool for the people, and the people are sometimes wrong, and the only fix for that is changing people's minds. Like, people really like an expanded military budget.
Yeah, no, they don't.
What do you mean?
I mean that there are a bunch of different senators who have located military budget spending within their state, and
Sure.
people don't like losing their jobs.
Wait,
And
sorry, I'm not sure I'm following. You're saying senators, a few senators, will even say
literally almost all of them. I'm not even going to
almost
pick one
all
out.
senators have been against military
No,
spending? Okay.
almost senators have been building military construction installations in their states, and people support
Wait, what is
those.
it? I'm sorry. I'm talking about a national army. I'm not entirely sure, like the national budget. I'm not entirely sure what like you're referring to like a police state?
The national budget doesn't like go in a lump sum to the army. It gets divided up into a bunch of different places. Like,
I said I might have said the army. I meant the military. But like I'm talking
yeah,
about a national military, and like if a state is in control of it, that would be
well,
I don't know. Are you? I'm referring to the military and the military alone. And then because we were looking at like international affairs, which would be headed by the military, not by on any state level.
okay. The senators take the military budget and they use it to pay for military projects, which include bases and construction and
Sure,
research and development in the
sure.
states.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
People in those states don't necessarily support the military budget,
Sure.
they support getting hired.
Getting
That
hired. What do you mean by that?
like the jobs.
Getting
They
voted. Getting voted in because it's not popular.
no, the people support getting hired. They support the existence of those jobs.
Oh,
That
sorry. Are you saying that the reason why the Senate is only interested in the military compounds is because it provides jobs for the people in their area?
I'm saying the people only care about the military compounds because it provides jobs for them in
Sure,
their area.
I would fully agree with you. I'd fully agree with you. I think that's a huge aspect that cutting military costs will decrease the amount of military jobs in America, and people are wary about that. But
Yeah,
that's I feel like that's my point.
this is the cart leading the horse, though, because the senators were the ones that started those jobs, and then they continue the spending with the support for those
I mean,
jobs.
it scales up gradually. It's not. I wouldn't say it's the cart leading the horse. It's more like a um,
Boiling a
sure, sure. No, I'll call that. I'll call it that for sure. But it's no. I would call it like an Ouroboros, where it's like eating itself. Like it's a cycle.
but it was started
Yes,
democratically.
a military was started undemocratically. Do you think a military in the in the 1700s, where like we should have a people who fight for our nation, was unpopular?
The military installments that people are worried about were not picked for them by themselves. They were not voted for. Like,
Kind of. I don't like it, like you vote for people who like this as I said, I fully acknowledge that there's two aspects to this. People are interested in having military defense because they're concerned about foreigners, and also they're worried about jobs in their local area. I think that these compound each other. I wouldn't say that there's one that just existed without the other, because having a country without a national defense was just unheard of for, I mean, forever, essentially. You need to guard against people because imperialism was so common in the fucking 1700s. We started as a colony to an imperialist country.
yeah, I know. I know. military was necessary. The military still is.
Sorry?
The military was necessary. The military still is necessary. I'm telling you that the people are not directly voting for military budget increases or imperialism or shipping jobs overseas.
I hear you.
Jobs off overseas, and people are voting for the military, which supports that.
Sure.
When offshoring and the real imperialism that America deals in, although we do gunboat imperialism, but our major harm is in building factories and hiring cheap labor. When that was happening, it was done without anybody's consent. People were desperately trying to vote against it.
Hold on. I feel like I'm gonna need to see any sort of figures where people are heavily against this sort of like these ideas, because I'm just sort of under this. I feel like I can't shake this idea that we implement policies. Sorry, it's a little hard for me to hear you. Let me turn you up a little bit.
Sorry,
you keep glitching a little bit, so it's weird to turn you up.
Hold on. Yeah, is it good? Are we good?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It just every once in a while it'll clip a little bit. So I tried to turn you down, which has the problem of me not being able to hear you well.
Okay, it's gonna clip no matter what. I think.
Yeah, no worries. It's fine.
But okay, I need to find the thread. So it is. Okay, so when I talk about the offshoring of jobs, that is like the foundation of 90s and early 2000s Republican Party. Like people yelling about the outsourcing of their jobs.
Sure.
And when jobs get outsourced elsewhere, that is done through financial manipulation. Financial manipulation and just the weight of our government in general. And so we can build offshore factories, get cheap labor, exploit those countries for their labor, for the resources that are there. And it was done without the will of the people because it was cheaper for the business owners.
Yeah, because but like here's the thing where I just have to pause you here, because it's also popular for the people who want jobs.
No, it's off. Literally, like, outsourcing has never been popular.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I thought you were referring to, sorry. I understand what you're saying now. You're referring to outsourcing, okay? You're saying that that's not popular. Sure.
No, well, yeah,
sure.
But
that's not even handled on that shouldn't be a democratic policy, because that's a business owner who you shouldn't have, like, the system isn't electable, right? I see you nodding. You're like, oh, this is why socialism is necessary, right? Is this your next?
No, this is the downside, that you are arguing for democracy through the systems which are paid off by these business owners who operate.
No. No, but here's my biggest issue is that I feel like this is so conspiratorial that business owners just control democracy and it's not actually held by the people. Sorry?
They have to control it. They don't control it. They don't have to control it. All they have to do is put forward lobbying that makes our politicians compromise with them.
Sure.
Do is put their idea in front of.
But here's the thing with lobbyists, okay? Here's the thing with lobbyists is I don't disagree that they're an issue. That specifically some people have more access to politicians than others.
Undemocratic. Yet another undemocratic.
Sure. But like, here's the thing. I am willing to cut all of these thorns off of this tree because I don't see another option. Tell me what other option we have.
The tree has its thorns to protect itself.
I don't even know what that means.
The government has the police state to protect itself.
So you're saying what you're claiming here is that it's impossible to cut off all of the thorns on the tree, correct?
I'm saying that you are asking the tree to cut its own thorns off.
But it has, because it It has. It has because it has. It will because it has. It will because you could say that all of the people in power were white men who were rich, and all of the interests of the government match those people. So why on earth would we ever extend the vote to anyone else? I heard this in 2013, 2014, where they said gay people will never be married. Ever, because capitalism requires the nuclear family, and the nuclear family will be broken, and then it did because people wanted it to change.
Well, the nuclear family didn't break; it just became gay.
Sure, but isn't that a refutation of your own conclusion that like we can't change things? Like I can point to so many things that have changed, that have become better in this world, and I'm saying let's just keep going. Let's move forward with this trajectory. Let's have this momentum. Let's keep cutting all of these issues. And I feel like you keep claiming, oh, but this one is insurmountable. And I'm like, dude, we got fucking slavery banned. We got black people to vote. Like I feel like banning the Electoral College is so much easier than any of those other interests.
It's not, because
why?
The Electoral College is one of the reasons they let black people vote.
I don't even know what that means. Do you think that there weren't huge incentivizations when it comes to business owners with slavery? Like that was one of the biggest issues with like people who own business, people who own capital. Sorry,
man, and they went to war over it.
Let's fucking get antagonized then.
If literally the biggest change in our economy came about with a war.
Yes, I agree.
Not a vote for democracy, because also no one was telling Abraham Lincoln in the Senate majority to end slavery. I don't even know if the majority people who voted for
Abraham.
So
are you pro? So I guess here's my question. Do you recognize that sometimes moving away from democracy is actually beneficial for the people? And when do you get to make those calls?
Kid, I knew this was going to happen.
What's up?
I'm sorry to call you. You're probably my age.
Yeah, you're probably my age. I'm 26.
26? Oh, I'm older than you. I'm 30.
Gotcha. You can call me kid. It's all good.
No, I didn't. I did it to condescend to you, and I didn't mean to.
Okay. Look, hey, if you want to discontinue the conversation, you're totally good. No worries, man. Yeah. I want to make sure you're good, because that's my biggest. For sure. I'm not pissed. I don't dislike you at all. And
well, I don't hate you. I don't appreciate
and if anyone's watching you, don't get pissed at this guy either, because he represents a significant portion of the population, and you can disagree with him without.
It's not about getting pissed at me. I just don't appreciate being used for sound bites.
Well, I think that's unfair. I speak this way. No, absolutely. I do think that's unfair, and I won't clip you in any meaningful way. And you asked not to be shown on TikTok, but I guess like this is how I speak to my friends who disagree with me. I get heated and I get frustrated, and I'm like, sorry.
You don't listen a whole lot, and that's okay. That's what a debate mindset does. It's not about listening. It's about bringing forth all the facts that support your side and seeing if their facts can convince you. And I knew that this was going to be a debate whether I wanted it to be or not. And I tried to bring facts to support me, but this conversation is entirely too broad for me to have prepared for everything.
Sure. Okay. So, you're good. Hey, I'm really sorry if you feel hoodwinked. That was not my effort at all. I was honestly trying to engage in a. Sorry.
No, I know.
Okay.
I don't feel hoodwinked by you.
Okay.
I knew what I was getting coming into this, and I got what I was getting coming into this. But
okay.
The literal thing is that I believe in democracy.
Yeah.
But don't believe that the 200-year-old beast that we're living under is democratic anymore, and I don't believe that it has the tools or desire to fix itself.
Okay.
And I think that agitation towards something is the only way forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to voting, I think local politics are the only way there, because it's just political games at the top. And that's whatever. If you want to play the political game and try to win, that's on you.
Okay.
But it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna come to the conclusions we want. I think things are going to continue to change and things are going to continue to stay the same.
Okay.
And we're ultimately fighting against haves and haves nots.
Sure.
Whereas fundamentally, I don't believe that they need to exist.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to discontinue the conversation, I'll let you leave on that. I'll give you the final word, and I think that's fair. I think that that's a reasonable point, and I feel like I've argued my disagreements, which aren't too many, with what you were saying.
We come down on the same side of too many things for it to not be frustrating when we talk.
You're saying we disagree on too many things?
No, we agree.
Oh, sure.
On too many things.
So it's like we're like almost there. So like the few things that we disagree with, it's almost like more infuriating because with like a conservative, it's like I expect to disagree with everything you're saying. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And like fundamentally, I'm arguing from a place that is always going to be a little more theoretical until we have broad stream political or otherwise will, to test the theories out, you know.
Sure. Okay. Well, I feel like we're good. I hope you had a good time. No hard feelings. I think you're great.
Look, it doesn't go up on TikTok, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. No worries about that. I promise. Okay.
Okay.
Is it?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And any other time you want to reach out, if you see any videos that I have, you're like, oh, let me get in on that. Please give me a call, and we can absolutely do this again if you feel comfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds
Have
good.
a nice time.
Yeah, you too.